Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is Dungeons and Dragons Season 2. We've made it this far, let's continue on the journey with Hank, Bobby, Sheila, Diana, Eric, and Uni, and Presto. So this season is a little darker. Not as dark as the show would get in season 3 and 4, but there's a palpable sense of frustration now with the kids. The first season when Dungeon Master, the little sadist, turns up and gives a riddle and then disappears just as they're asking him another question, that was kind of played for laughs in the first season, whereas the second season the characters do, Eric the Cavalier was always annoyed and frustrated by Dungeon Master disappearing, but now even characters like Sheila and young Bobby the Barbarian, the youngest of the group, there's a real palpable sense of frustration. There's a real sense of just tell us how to get out of this. But Dungeon Master, in his sadistic way, still continues to give riddles and then disappear behind a rock. So again, Season 2 has 7 episodes. I'll just give a brief synopsis of each one. But I would say this season's probably better than the first season. On this disc, there's extras of this fan commentary tracks on a couple of episodes. There's also an interview with Michael Reeves, who was one of the writers on season 2, and he talks about how it kind of got a little dark. That interview does have spoilers for later seasons, later episodes, so if you perhaps are watching it for the first time, better kind of circle back once you've seen the whole 4 seasons and then watch his interview. So we open up with Servant of Evil, which is a great title, obviously. And we're really focusing on the character of Carax, who is working for Venger under blackmail on the threat of the destruction of his home world, because Venger likes to roll like that. So he's a kind of giant. He's kind of like a Cyclops, but he's got 2 eyes, so he's not really a Cyclops, but he's that kind of character. And he works in Venger's version of Alcatraz, essentially, which is a prison. We're not quite sure what kind of prisoners he has in there, apart from they all look as though they could maybe be in the Star Wars cantina. It's probably just for people who annoy Venger. He just sticks them in this prison, which is suspended by chains over a lava pit. You're going to have to put some form of kind of barrier to prisoners who don't really want to escape, because unless you're lava proof, which by the looks of some of the characters in the prison might be lava proof. So you have lizard men, you have orcs as guards, and the kids get trapped and put in there, apart from Bobby, because he gets separated, so he has to rescue them. Venger does release the creature on them, and the fire hydra makes an appearance. It's a lovely little episode, and again we have Carax, who has to make one that moral choice of standing up to Venger, but it's threatening his home world. But the kids show him the right way, obviously, because humans are awesome. Episode 2 is a classic its quest for the skeleton warrior. So we're introduced to the character of Decion, who is a celestial knight, and Dungeon Master, again, that cheeky little sadist, tells the kids that a way home is in the Lost Tower of the Celestial Knights. Use the Circle of Power. Yes, it's another MacGuffin episode. But only the pure of heart can go up this tower and find the Circle of Power. And you have to defeat the enemy within yourself. And then he goes and disappears round a rock. Watching the episode and listening to the audio track, it does actually sound as an F-bomb in the episode, but it can't really be. I think somebody says back off, but it sounds a bit like an F-bomb. So the kids face Decion, who's a skeleton. So obviously at first they're a little bit antagonistic towards him, and then realise, oh, he can help them find the Circle of Power. I'm not sure that's a euphemism. But they go into this tower and they're all split up, and they face their demons essentially. So Hank, who's the leader, he feels useless. Diana becomes old, the acrobat. Bobby becomes even younger, turns into a baby. Sheila is left isolated because, again, she's kind of the mother figure, so she's all alone, she's isolated. Bizarrely, Presto and Eric are together, but they get kind of put into this swamp, and again, Eric is transformed into a beast. And obviously Presto's magic, which is erratic at times anyway, it's fairly ineffectual, but then they all manage to fight through these challenges and get the Circle of Power, and of course, who turns up but Venger, and we learn the kind of truth about Decion. You know, he talks about how Venger cursed him, and you know, he was the last of the Celestial Knights, but Dungeon Master turns up, as he's prone to do, and kind of tells us the real story of Decion. It's an excellent episode. And next is another really good one about, it's called The Garden of Zin. Bobby is poisoned. I won't tell you how he's poisoned, that would be a spoiler, you'll have to watch it yourself, but he's poisoned. So they hear that the cure is the foot of a yellow dragon in the Garden of Zin, who is Queen Zin. She has phantom stalkers, which again is a nice name, working for her, and she is looking for a king to sit next to her on the throne and do other activities that a king and queen would do. So the children have to face the trial of the worm. Don't know if that's a euphemism as well. And this is interesting because the Phantom Stalkers, Dungeon Master appears to help guide them the way, but there's also another Dungeon Master who appears. There's imposter Dungeon Masters, which is a nice little thing, unlike Dungeon Master. And then we find out that there's a creature in the forest called Solars, who again at first, because of his appearance, they're scared of, but then it turns out that he's an ally and he has some link to Queen Zin. And then Queen Zin, she meets the kids, chooses Eric to be her king. Now obviously these are like under 16 kids, but that's we'll skirt over that. And Queen Zin's a pretty good looking queen, but it's all about a curse and spells, and obviously the truth is revealed. It's another really good episode, but what follows is another one of the best episodes, I would say, called The Box. So the kids are wandering about as they do, and there's an earthquake and a box is exposed, and this is Sandora's box, not Pandora's box, because that's copyright. Xandora's box, and Dungeon Master obviously turns up and says, hey, this box will help you get home, but you have to open it in a special place. If you open it anywhere else, if you open it on your journey, bad things will happen. You have to open it at the right place at the right time. It's so frustrating with these boxes. So they have to go to Skull Mountain, which, strange enough, looks a lot like Castle Grayskull, but again, let's not get into copywriting. And they have to open it at a specific time. But obviously Venger gets involved, the Shadow Demon gets involved. But we do eventually meet Sandora, and strangely enough, as you can see in one of the images, Zandora looks a lot like Dungeon Master. Definitely the same species. So we'll maybe revisit that in later seasons. But it's not explained, are they connected somehow? Are they related somehow? Or is there something going on? I mean, look at the look. Look at the look in their face. Up there. And again, this is a way home, as long as you open it in the right place. But what happens when they open it, and this is one of those episodes where they almost get home, spoiler alert, but something happens involving Venger that they have to make a decision. Do we go, but there's consequences, or do we stay to help? So it's another wonderful episode with those moral choices again that make the show really quite interesting. Again, it's another one of those, they're almost home. They can smell it, they can touch it, they're there. But do they make a decision to stay? Obviously they probably do, because we've still got a couple of episodes in season 2 and we've still got season 3 and 4. But if you were watching this live back in the 80s, as some of us were, that choice it's so close. But we have episode 5, which is The Lost Children, which is a really odd little one. Again, Venger and children. We find out these kind of furry looking children, 500 is middle age, so they're like 70, even though they're about the same age as Bobby when they meet them. And again, their kind of father, Alfor, who strange enough looks a lot like Alf. I don't know whether that's an inspiration for Alf, the TV show later. He's trapped by Venger because he's working for Venger and the kids want to rescue him. But strange enough, he's working on a spaceship with Venger. How a spaceship got there, because Alfor and the kids are actually aliens. And Venger wants the spaceship. I'm not exactly sure why Venger wants the spaceship, to be honest, because he's got his horse that he can fly with. Unless he wants to go to other galaxies. Are they aware in the Dungeons and Dragons realm that there's other galaxies? Maybe he just wants to conquer other galaxies, as his Avengers want. But when you've got a cool black and red horse with wings, would you really want a spaceship? Anyway, there's a spaceship. And that's basically it. It's a fun little episode with the bizarre spanner thrown in of furry aliens. Definitely not Ewoks though. Episode 6 is another wonderful one. Presto spells disaster. This time Presto's separated, and he has to rescue the rest of the kids, and it's a Jack and the Beanstalk riff. but instead of a golden goose, it's a golden dragon. And again, it's a character being isolated and facing loneliness and self-doubt, and feeling like a failure. Again, season 2 is a little bit darker than season 1. It's a wonderful episode. Again, the giant is wonderful, and it's interesting that he has a little pet which he then uses to hunt the children, and it's actually the creature from episode 1, Servant of Evil. But it's a great episode. Again, the nice change is it's not a golden goose that's laying the eggs, it's a golden dragon, and we find out what the contents of the eggs actually are. And then episode 3, what am I talking about? Episode 7 is The Girl Who Dreamed Tomorrow, which again is another classic episode. They come across a car from the Dungeons and Dragons ride, so that red car with the white decal on it. Under some foliage, they get attacked by lizard men, and they come across a girl called Terry, who's obviously human because she's wearing jeans and a blouse, so she must be human. And they rescue her, and she has the gift of second sight. Which, again, it's not really explained, she just has it. And then Dungeon Master obviously appears and says, "Oh, you have to go through the maze of darkness." They've all got these wonderful, threatening names, obviously. They never have to climb the Tower of Pleasantries or anything. So it's into the maze of darkness, and there's a portal that will send them home. Of course, there's a catch, because the maze of darkness is really quite dark. They see corpses of soldiers. There's a wonderful scene where there's obviously an area that affects them mentally, so they all turn on each other, and it's really beautifully drawn. It's all reds and yellows as they're all like shouting at each other. Bobby kind of has some affection for Terry, so there's characters like jeering at him and going, "Bobby's got a girlfriend, Bobby's got a girlfriend." It's a really intense little section of the maze, but again they power through it and get to the portal. Terry has had a dream that she sees Bobby at high school. So again, it's a really emotional episode. And again, Venger turns up, as Venger does. And again, they're left with the choice: who goes home, who stays. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. Obviously, this is season 3 and 4. But it's a really wonderful episode. It's a kind of genius move to have them find another child from their own world and deal with her issues and try and help her. It's a wonderful episode, one of the best. And again, it's emotional. And again, it's just kind of the overarching thing of season 2, the frustration, the kind of getting so close to what you want but it's taken away from you, kind of just like life. It's a wonderful season. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend it if you're that way inclined. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below if you have seen season 2 of Dungeons and Dragons and what your favourite episode out of the 7 is. And hopefully you'll join me again for what could potentially be season 3. So this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying thanks for watching and farewell.